Minister, as you know, we've been in constant contact along with our colleague, Minister for Public Expenditure, Pascal Donoghue, regarding...
Sorry, is there another grouping there?
71,
My apologies, I hadn't looked. It's Cruz, sorry, the Minister will clarify that. It's stooped with 68, 69, 71 John Brady. That's fine, you'll have an opportunity. Sorry.
Thanks. And I know, Minister, you've done a lot of work on this. The long-standing issue, you've done a lot of work in engaging with SIP2 and Forza and the different unions regarding CE supervisors' pension claim. So you might give us an update of engagement that you've had there as far as you can.
Thank you.
Thanks. And yes, Chair, excuse me, I'm proposing to take PQs 41, 45, 63, 68, 69, 71 and 74 together. And can I say, and I know sometimes it annoys people when we take all of these questions together, but they are all obviously about exactly the same topic. And it shows the extent, I think, of the concern and the appreciation that we all have and share in this House for CE, for the scheme itself, and in particular for the CE supervisors. And I want to thank you, Deputy Hayden, for continuously contacting my office to try and get an update. And so, as you're aware, as the Minister, the Line Minister, have a real appreciation for the value of the work that our CE supervisors do. I visit CE supervisors and their participants in their schemes up and down the country a number of times each and every month. And the real value, not just of the contribution to our localities, our communities, our sports clubs and stuff like that, which is great and we all couldn't manage without it. The real value for me is that when people arrive to the CE scheme that are, some cases, really somewhat removed from being active in the labour market or even the social economy in their own communities, need genuine extra and over and above support, care, attention, monitoring, mentoring, coaching, and they get that in absolute spades from our CE supervisors. And so I made it a priority and I made a commitment to those CE supervisors and indeed the unions that I would try and address the issues that were arising and still outstanding from the Labour Court recommendations of 2008. We started our consideration process at the beginning of the summer. It is ongoing. We agreed some parameters around the table that they know what my outcomes look like. I know what their wants look like. The commitment that I have given them is that I will not stop until we achieve those. But given that some of the recommendations do have very large and tangible, probably unintended from their perspective, consequences, it isn't as easy a route as some people might think, hence why the issue is still floating around since 2008, and I think we can appreciate that we've had successive governments since 2008. So we are in deliberations. We are at a stage now where there is a proposal on the table, and that negotiation process is somewhat beginning in earnest with the financiers of the country. And so the only commitment that I will continue to give, not only all of you, and I want to thank you for your support, but indeed to the people that carry out the Department of Employment's activation services day in, day out, is that this issue needs to be resolved and it will be resolved, and I won't stop until it is.
Thank you very much. Now I'll take you, Deputy Hayden, first, and I'll take Deputy Quinlivan, then who's representing Deputy Brady.
Supplementary.
I have to let this one in first, and then I will let you in.
Thanks, Minister, for the response. Look, I suppose, as you know, in all of the cases you're dealing with them, you deal with them in your own constituency in Meath East as well as I do in Kildare. It does jar with the CE supervisors when they're told that the voluntary sponsoring groups are their employers, which I know technically in law and is how they're seen, but everything they do on a daily basis deals with your department, deals with the DSP in terms of orders, approvals and all the different elements of that. I understand the huge challenge of precedence that this creates for us and for the Department of Public Expenditure in particular, that if it is paid out, it opens it up to a wider cohort of people. In your deliberations and discussions, is there ways of getting around that precedence issue? I understand in your engagement with the unions you can't say everything out here openly and breach those confidences, but it is a challenge I feel we need to see. And also the high-level forum is something that's been referenced previously by Minister Donoghue more so. And is that a body that has a role in this process, or where is its role in that at present? And look, we all know the value of this, the voluntary groups across the whole host of areas, from daycare centres to sporting organisations. The work they do and the participants is really, really key.
just get the usual stalker's reply in relation to the ongoing talks with representative CE supervisors about confidentiality. But all we're looking for here is for you to clarify that the government have not reneged on any aspect that was agreed for the talks process.
Yeah, so first of all, Deputy Quinlan, there's no stock response here. I've engaged in a process with the union since May. We agreed that we would keep our deliberations confidential, and I'm not in the habit of breaking an agreement that I've made with anybody. And so I'm not sure what you mean by stock response. Deputy Hayden, you know, and again, this is only because of our continued engagement. There are a number of deputies in this House, and you happen to be probably in the top 3 that contact me on a weekly basis with regard to this, because they know and see the value of the work that's been done on the ground. Not just because the participants are delivering the services, but because the CE supervisors are delivering a huge service to their participants. It's up to us now to deliver a service to recognise the value of that contribution. That's the process that I engaged in this May. I'm sorry that I'm not in a position to give you the parameters, but I'm certainly sure that if we were to start megaphone debating what should or shouldn't be done in the confines of a negotiation process, I'd be right back to where I was when there was a former Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform, and no solution to be found. The commitment that I've given the unions, the CE supervisors, is that I've taken this on as a challenge. I firmly believe that they need to be rewarded and recognised. That change and challenge for me has formed part of the interdepartmental review and the reorganisation of CE, and the acknowledgement of the work that our CE supervisors is a very large part of that.
Thank you. Now I'll take Deputy Hayden first and then Deputy Quinlan, and 1 minute each. Okay.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, Minister, we have the Labour Court recommendation, and I accept what you say. The Labour Court recommendation of 2008 that is still there in the mix and does need to be addressed. But also this year now, I understand we have a Workplace Relations Commission decision in relation to a CE supervisor who has taken a case. Whether or not that decision is appealed by the state or not, I have no doubt the fact that that CE supervisor was successful would encourage others to go down that route. So it is imperative, and I know this isn't just your department, it covers public expenditure as well, and I'll make the same point to Minister Donoghue, that it's imperative that we deal with this now. We don't force CE supervisors down the WRC route, where you could have hundreds of, if not more, such actions taken and then appeals clogging up a whole system. So it is something, and I know you accept that it needs action on that. I give an example of a participant in a CE scheme, very quickly, Chair, that hadn't worked for a number of years, got a job in a CE scheme as a secretarial assistant, who told the story at a public meeting we had, where her child was asked, her 7-year-old child was asked what she wanted to be when she grew up, and she said, "I want to be a secretary like Mammy." And only then did she realise the years of not having worked, the impact that had on her child. That's the role that it plays for our participants, it's the role it plays in our communities, and the CE supervisors are integral to that, and we have to support them in any way we can.
Minister, look, we all agree that CE supervisors have done a great job, and unfortunately they've been left without a pension. Minister, I just want to specifically ask you, are you aware of the decision made by the Workplace Relations Commission in October, which found that in the case of a CE supervisors, your department is the employer? Your department determines the salary of CE supervisors and pays it. Your department determines all of the working conditions for CE supervisors. Your department monitors everything CE supervisors do on the IT system. The IT system that your department control and supply to CE supervisors for their use. Yet you're saying the department is not the employer. Minister, this is a decision of the Workplace Commission, and I would urge you to implement that decision. CE supervisors, they were supposed to get a pension scheme put in place in 2008. They respected the economic catastrophe that happened and allowed the government time to honour a Labour Court recommendation which was made in their behalf, and the belief that this would be honoured. So, Minister, I would urge you to prioritise this.
Thank you. Final comment from Minister.
Thanks, Chair. With respect to both of you, yes, of course I'm aware of the WRC ruling in October. I'm also aware that we weren't there to defend ourselves against that ruling, which is why an appeal will be taken. But also with respect, in case neither of you are aware, that there have been 2 other cases that have been taken by CE supervisors to the Labour Court, and both of those cases have fallen because the Labour Court has adjudicated that we are not the CE supervisors' employment or employers. So can we leave that aside for a second, because you'll have different judges that will say yes on one day and no on another day. Yes, these people do our bidding. They do it enormously well. They are responsible for some 12,000 people who are so far removed from the labour force that they are there to monitor, mentor and coach these people back into full employment, either in the real economy or in the supported economy. And that is something that does not be underestimated by me or by my department, and cannot be underestimated as to the value of the contribution that each of those supervisors are giving us as a service to the state. I don't underestimate it, and I do not undervalue it, which is why I engaged in face-to-face roundtable talks for the first time with union representative CE supervisors and CE supervisors themselves since 2008, since that Labour Court recommendation was made. And let's be fair, it's a recommendation, it is not a ruling. Not one minister has sat around the table until I guaranteed that I would take this on and find a solution, and that is what I will do. And that's the only thing I can commit to you, as I have done to them, that I will not let them down. Thank you, Chair.
I just want to acknowledge again